On the last tutorial, we made some vCarve files and some toolpaths to appropriately make a puzzle that would look like this PowerCap puzzle. Some terminology I want to clear up here that I may not have been clear in the last 4 minutes of the last tutorial. This piece right here is called a pocket. If this was my base piece, this is where my puzzle pieces would go. My puzzle pieces are called an inlay. So when I saved this, I went back and edited the information so that my inlays pieces are actually going to be the pocket pieces. And you can see these are the pieces that would cut out and go into my material, and then I actually appropriately name my pocket and my inlay pieces for the puzzle. When I have this all done and I'm ready to export this information into my next wave automation Shark control panel, I'm going to open this up and I'm going to have my piece clamped down. Now you can't see what's going on my CNC Shark at this point in time, but I have my piece clamped down, and I need to move the bit to the 0, 0, 0 coordinate. And you can see over here I have all these coordinates. And so for my last piece, it moved it up about 5 inches above where my last piece was at 0, 0, 0, but this is going to be something different. So I'm going to move it a jog. I'm going to drag this over, and I'm going to move my piece to exactly where I have it centered. And so I need to move it on the x-axis. Now right now it's moving pretty slowly, mostly because I have it moving 1/10 of an inch at a point, and I'm going to have it moving slow. So to speed it up, move an inch at a time, center it up. And in the background you might be hearing some buzzing sound. That's actually my device, and I need to move it down a couple inches, and then now I need to fine tune it. So I'll move it to 1/10 of an inch, and then even finer. And now I have it exactly at the XYZ 0. It's at the center and it's touching the base piece. So I'm going to hit XYZ 0, and it's going to zero everything up. From here I want to load G-code. So right now I have the 1/4 inch piece up, and I am going to then select the inlay. And you can see this is exactly where this machine is going to make all of my cuts. From here I'm going to hit Run File. Some of you might have a touch plate. I do not have a touch plate, so I will hit Cancel, because I will not be using a touch plate between the router bit and the material spindle, so I'll hit Cancel. It will now raise my piece up. At this point in time is when I would have students or myself, if I'm using this, actually turn on the router, which I am would do at this point in time, and you would hit OK. And it would actually start making the cuts. And so at this point in time you're not hearing anything in the background, because I just took that piece out so that way I could talk through this, so you're not hearing the router go. So over here we have a lot of G-code. This is actually the XYZ coordinates that it is telling the machine to go. And so, and right over here I can see where it's tracing this material out. Now if you don't have a vacuum table, when it's done with a said piece, it is going to pop over and raise itself up, and that is at one point in time, if you can safely, remove it. If not, don't worry about it, because you don't want to put your hand in the way of this piece. Now you might have to do some filing, some spurring to get those pieces down. I'm going to go ahead and let this one close itself out and be ready for the next piece. Okay, so at this point in time, the inlays are now done and all these puzzle pieces are cut out. So what I have done next is I have actually taken all these off, shot backed up my table to get it all clean, and recentered the piece. Now I need to reset my XYZ coordinates, because even if I was to put the edges of this 8x8 piece back up exactly where it was, which I could do if I use a clamping jig or whatnot, my Z coordinate is going to be a little bit off. The reason my Z coordinate was going to be a little bit off is now using my base piece, I'm working on a thicker piece of wood. And so I move some different things around, and so I should be able to move my piece down. And it looks as if I did this right, I can move it over just a little bit because my jig must have moved a little bit. And then now I can set my coordinate points, X, Y, Z, 0, and then load my next G code. So my G code that I am going to pull right now is my inlay. Or excuse me, my inlay places. That was what I did. I'm going to do my pockets. You can see I had the pocket, the beautiful Power Cat. You can see more detail because that is, on this piece, is exactly where it's going to be cutting. It's going to be actually cutting out all these pieces. The reason it's important to do this first, or second, is because when this is done and my router is off, I can set my inlays directly into this piece, and if it doesn't fit exactly or is not a snug, I can come back here to my vCarve. I can open up that toolpath, and I can open up that just a tad if I would like, resave the toolpath, and cut it out again. It's important to do that without moving it, because without moving it, then I don't have to reset my XYZ coordinates. Now, yes, it's going to do a lot of the interior work back over again, but at least that will be done and run smoothly. And if this is your first time making that and you're going to reproduce it, then it's saved and ready for the next time. So this material is done. Hit Run File, Cancel. At this point in time, you would turn your router on. I am not. That way I can talk through these little points with you. And of course, since I don't have the router on and whatnot, you're thinking, okay, the piece, that piece I set up is hypothetical. This is actually raised up further off the table than what it suggests right now. That way, the material can run through, and I can talk this through to you. But this is what you would see exactly if your material is set up. So, turn the router on, hit OK, and now you can see this is starting on the inside of the jowl of the Power Cat and working along here. At this is 100% speed, it's going to be cutting at 25. It's going to take 25 minutes to cut all that out. Now, if I think that's running a little bit too fast, I can turn down to 25%. But that's going to multiply that by 4 times. So now it's going to take almost 2 hours to cut that out. That's not really necessary on these pieces. I'm working with a pretty durable piece. It's not going to chip out. If you're using plywood, chip out a little bit more. You might have to go a little bit slower. So that's why it pays to work with more of a solid piece. Anything happens where I need to pause my work and stop, I can hit continue. But if I have an emergency, I'm going to e-stop. The e-stop button is going to stop where I'm at, and it's not going to let me recontinue. So I usually, when I'm working this piece, I always put my mouse over the pause button just so anything happens, or if I'm stepping away in between classes, lunch, whatnot, I can come back to it. That is how you use vCarve and the CNC Shark control panel to make some pretty neat puzzles that would hopefully look like this after you stain your inlays. Thank you very much for listening to this tutorial. Enjoy!